cautious optimism almost, right? Which I think is what we're all trying to find.
I think a lot of the confusion around AI arises because a lot of the discourse around AI is this: AI is a technology.
Because they seem to put something out there which, our pet peeve is that they quickly wash their hands off it.
It comes down to families and education. I mean, it seems like we're supposed to talk about AI, technology. We're talking about the guardrails, this sort of a social contract, a social compact we have.
Telling yourself you're good at everything, or you can be.
It's like using a calculator to check your arithmetic versus using a calculator because you don't know how to add.
I find that tools like social media or chatbots, especially because of their interactive nature, they can permeate through those circles for children a lot easier.
My book delves into this. I call it resilience boosters, right? There are 4 key pillars, and we know all of them.
The individual is also alone, right? The adult individual in an urban setting is also working a certain number of hours a day, is also going through the same uncertainties and challenges.
We can all engage in that, no problem. The problem arises when it becomes your go-to method of coping.
I have the tool, so I'm supposed to sort it out. No, I can't ask for help.
Those who used AI exclusively for essay writing had reduced linguistic, behavioral, and cognitive skills.
In May 2022, we unpacked the hype and the hope around the metaverse. Remember that? And artificial intelligence, how it actually works, the risks of overtrusting flawed systems, and more. Our guest left us with both clarity and caution. Today, we're bringing back Kashyap Kompella, this time with Dr. Sujata Kelkar Shetty, to explore how AI is impacting not just what we do at work, but how do we feel about our work and our place in it and our mental well-being and those of our children. If you've ever wondered how artificial intelligence is not just changing what we do, but how we feel at work, in school, even in our quietest moments, this one's for you. Kashyap Kompella is back on Small Talk, CEO of RP2 AI Research, global AI thought leader, educator, and one of the first certified AI auditors in India. He's the person who can break down neural networks, data ethics, and corporate decision making in a way that even your dad will understand. Joining him is Dr. Sujata Kelkar Shetty, a trained biologist, resilience coach, and best-selling author, and someone deeply attuned to the emotional undercurrents of modern life. Her new book, Resilience Decoded, explores teen mental health, but her insights speak to anyone trying to stay human in a world moving faster than ever before. Together, we're asking, what does AI do to our identity? Is it amplifying anxiety, or can it also be part of the cure? And what kind of support do we really need when the world changes overnight? Welcome to Small Talk Work, Play, Build, where we explore how we work, how we play, and how we build our way through a changing world. I am Subha Chandrasekharan, Leadership and Career Growth Coach.
And I'm Hasita. I'm a brand consultant and co-founder at Motley Crue.
So a warm welcome, Kashyap. It's our honor to have you back, and you're our second time guest. So lovely to see you again. And a warm welcome, Dr. Sujata. Really looking forward to bringing your two worlds together, because there is so much of interconnect today between just AI, which is your expertise, and resilience and mental health, and who are we turning up as today in the world. So thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having us today.
So I think we'll start with, what is AI in your world today? How are you seeing it, feeling it, experiencing it?
AI in my world has really been introduced thanks to my children, right? They are using it for their homework. And then they use a paraphrasing technology to ensure that it doesn't get caught in their homework. And they're not using it all the time. I won't pretend that they are, but it's very much a part of their lives. And I find that worrying. right? Both from a cognitive perspective and from an emotional perspective. I think it's going to impact our teens in a profound way unless we have guardrails around it.
Very true. Very true. What about you,
See,
Kashyap?
AI is my day job, so I spend a lot of my time thinking about AI. So I reflected upon what's my relationship with AI and sort of penned a small couple of lines.
Sure.
So around 1800 years ago, there was this Roman Stoic, Marcus Aurelius. He has a meditation. So this is on those lines. So it says like, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the AI I engage with today will be astonishing in power, driven by both brilliance and greed, overhyped and underregulated, and careless in deployment.
Oh.
So it will promise transformation while enabling exploitation, simplify truth while amplifying bias. But I have seen its real potential. Tools that can uplift, extend thought and creativity, democratize knowledge. And I know its flaws reflect our own. So I won't reject it nor respect it blindly. Like all powerful tools, it demands judgment, question everything, use with clarity, and build with conscience. And a confession, I took ChatGPT help to write this.
I think you've brought everything that's on our mind together in that little write up, right?
Yeah. And also the whole idea around cautious optimism almost, right? Which I think is what we're all trying to find in the context of our work with AI. Our world is changing so rapidly, Kashyap. Uh, and we are all trying to figure out, will I keep my job 5 years from now? Will my world look the same? Are my friends going to be digital avatars of a certain kind? Where are we heading with the whole thing? And especially when we contextualize it in the context of younger people who are growing up in this reality. I think for some of us, early, late millennials, the internet itself was something that came after. So we weren't born into a digital native world. Today, the two generations that we are looking at, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, both of them firstly have been born in a digitally native world, and they're all growing up in a world that none of us really have the words for yet in many ways. So, in your work around the systems thinking around AI, what is it that we need to be cautious about, and what is it that we need to be optimistic about? Like, where do we draw the line, and how do we not become conspiracy theorists in some ways, right?
I think a lot of the confusion around AI arises because a lot of the discourse around AI is this: AI is a technology. But when AI is like put in the hands of, say, a large variety of population or a large base of population, it stops being a technology system. It becomes a socio-technico economic system or even a political system. So if we expand our thinking and don't leave AI to tech bros, we'll start addressing some of the problems that we talked about.
Yeah.
So true. Because they seem to put something out there which, our pet peeve is that they quickly wash their hands of it, right? That I've created a tool which can, like you said, create an avatar or a friend who's not even real, but hey, now it's your problem, right? Deal with it, deal with the repercussions of it. So, what you're suggesting is that that whole creation process is more made more wide. Like, how do we tackle that?
So I think it comes down to families and education. I mean, it seems like we're supposed to talk about AI technology, but we're talking about the guardrails, this sort of a social contract or the social compact we have. So our societies, our systems are used to incremental change. So when there is a change that is happening, like which is beyond our absorptive capacity, which it seems to be happening at this point in time. So far, like this is not the first AI wave that we're seeing. This is
Yeah,
probably the
very
third
much.
wave that I myself am seeing. So it has upended some of our traditional assumptions. So why we feel a lot of angst. So I don't call this the age of AI, but it's actually the age of anxiety about AI. So that is one of the reasons. This is because it is upending some of our assumptions around whether AI is really colorblind or AI is going to come after higher value work. So far, our understanding mental models about AI and automation technologies is that AI is going to automate the simpler tasks. The humans will be there to do the higher order things, the
Correct.
creativity, these kind of things. But now, suddenly, like we are doing the laundry and the dishwashing while AI is doing the poetry and the painting. So
Correct.
that
Correct.
absorptive capacity, our mental models, we really need to upgrade and do a much better job than what we're currently doing.
Dr. Sujata, you spoke about kids and using these tools. In a sense, in a way, it was designed that they would use it for homework, right? It's another version of Google if you start to think
Yeah,
of it
yeah,
initially.
yeah.
But essentially, there's a lot of creativity and problem solving that a child is outsourcing
Mm-hmm.
and not really using their own mental capabilities, right?
Yes.
How do you see that playing out?
I think that's such an important question to ask. Yeah. AI is a fantastic resource, but it's the unquestioning dependency on it that is going to become a problem.
Mm.
Yeah. It's like using a calculator to check your arithmetic versus using a calculator because you don't know how to add. And that's the worry when it comes to our children.
Mm.
So the psychological cost is going to be twofold. One, we risk atrophying that muscle
Correct.
that needs to be built for resilience. The muscle that gets built when the teen is in the space between I don't know and let me figure it out, right? The muscle that gets built with the neural fireworks from deep thought, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that I figured this out, right? And even that dopamine hit of genuine discovery.
Correct.
When you figured out a math problem when we were little, there was that little
Yes,
hit that
very
you
much.
got. It took effort to get there, but you got that hit.
Yeah.
And that's what motivated you to go back to mathematics or to any other subject for that matter, right? And the second one is more subtle, right? Identity formation. It's going to affect identity formation of our teenagers. Because an important part of that journey for our teens is what am I good at? Figuring out what am I good at? What are my strengths?
Interesting. Yeah.
And if you are outsourcing that to AI, and AI is coming out with a homogeneous answer, then there's a void in that
You're-
identity formation.
You're almost telling yourself you're good at everything, or you can be,
Yeah,
right?
which is a false sense of self confidence that's not really built on a foundation that's going to help them moving forward. That's not going to build their intellectual resilience or their emotional resilience as well, and we can talk about that. But so that's the concern. The concern is we're taking the struggle away that is critical for building resilience. And it was very much a part of our lives growing up, no? That struggle.
Very
Our
much.
parents practically just threw us into it. They're like, go figure it out because they were busy.
Correct.
And now we have helicopter parenting where parents are so engaged and they can't help it as well. We have these single family homes versus having the extended family to support us. The community doesn't exist as we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
That community that we grew up with no longer seems to be there. So parents are stuck with having to do everything on their own. That makes them overly involved. And the world has become so much more competitive. So you feel like you have no choice but to be overly involved. But then our children are getting less avenues for building that resilience.
Yeah. Correct, because it's become one more door delivery, right?
Yes.
I was like, when you were saying we went through a struggle, I had these images of when I had to go to the public library
Yes.
and open books and
Yes.
search for information, and then in that process meet a librarian.
Yes.
So
Have that conversation, and maybe she wasn't wanting to help you, and you
Correct.
had to push and find a way for her to help you.
Yeah.
And
Correct. Can I borrow 3 books instead of 2? So there was that little bit of negotiation, trying
Yeah.
to influence, and all of that is lost. But what feels like a very, very critical age when so many other changes are happening for that child.
Yes, yes, 100%. I mean, it's like a metamorphosis, as we were talking earlier, right? I mean, they're going through physiological changes, they're going through emotional changes, they're going through intellectual changes. Their brains are just extraordinary in terms of the kind of growth spurt that they're seeing, but they're still not 20% ready. So 80% of their brains are ready, but 20% are still under construction. And that 20% is responsible for executive function. The 20% is responsible for impulse control. So you've got your teen who can debate with you on environment or the current state of politics, but they're unable to remember that they shouldn't be texting while driving.
Yeah.
Sad.
Kashyap, I was listening to Cal Newport, an episode yesterday, I think, where he's talking about, have we lost all these jobs to AI? right? And we've also been reading, right? Microsoft slashes, Accenture slashes, etc. And he kind of argues that this is just an excuse. AI is not really taking away these jobs, but this is part of the economic cycle, right? So the company after COVID or during COVID, a lot of these organizations have become bloated, and they're just looking for efficiency. And there's, yes, employees are using AI tools, but the employee themselves are not really fully getting replaced in that sense, or that it's not that the job doesn't exist. They're still needed, but it's just an economic cycle. Do you think that's true, or has coding really, doesn't need that human anymore?
No, I think there are different nuances out there that we need to unpack. So there is an element of truth to Calport, who I think he's written deep work.
Correct.
He's popular for
Yes.
that. So it is true that there has been a massive overhiring during the pandemic years. So if you look at what has happened, and the answer actually varies. Like the answer to this question varies by industry to industry,
Yeah.
and
Makes
country
sense.
to country.
Yeah.
So there definitely has been overhiring, which is being corrected. But we live in a system where if like when a company announces a layoff, its stock price either goes up or goes down. If the market sees that you're doing a layoff for efficiency reasons, the stock market, at least in the short term, gives you a 3%
reward
boost
you,
in share
correct,
price.
correct.
But if you're a weak company, you sort of seen as like, okay, this is a company is going down, not doing well, so your stock price crashes. So for a lot of the companies that are in the news, the stock price is actually going up and they announce these layoffs. So on the one hand, they were overhired, and there is also a lot of change in the macroeconomic environment as well. So at this point in time, it's definitely AI is like a not the main factor, and particularly if for a lot of these companies, if your USP, your sales page is that our AI technology is going to drive efficiencies. So it also sees like you're eating your own dog food. So all of these things are creating the perfect storm for the employees at the receiving end. So
Interesting.
that's nothing. But where AI definitely is already having an impact is for jobs at the entry level. So the work that you're doing, the resilience, etc., is going to become very important, because so far at least the teens and the young people are going and saying, okay, there is going to be finding anchor in employment. But those doors are sort of closing a little bit for that generation.
Correct.
Hard time for them.
Yeah.
It's
In
just
every
hard
way.
time to be a young
I mean,
person.
can you imagine a pandemic, several wars going on?
Yeah.
When I was a teen, my biggest concern was, that boy didn't talk to me today. Like,
Very true.
I didn't, or the environment, that the earth may not be able to sustain my, my line. These were not concerns that we had.
Yeah,
And
at
I
that
think
age, especially.
at that
Yeah,
age,
yeah.
at that age,
And I
it's
want
it's an
to-
age where you go from, your brain goes to the catastrophic very quickly, because it hasn't learned to manage itself. So it's very easy for them to get anxious thinking about these things. We have mature brains. We can contain that anxiety. We can find ways of using our mind in a way that is productive while the world might seem like it's coming to an end. We know that there's an optimistic viewpoint we can take. Their brains aren't able to do that yet.
Or even to have that locus of control, I think.
They don't have it.
I mean, we are taught about these circles of social influence, right? So at the center, there's you, and no one gets into that circle. And then there's a small group of people who's allowed into the next. And then there's a slightly bigger, and then there's the world outside.
Yeah.
I find that tools like social media or chatbots, especially because of their interactive nature, they can permeate through those circles for children a lot easier. And sometimes there's also expanding on what you said earlier about not really being able to synthesize information, right? Like it's given to you on a platter. So in some ways, maybe even the deadening of the reward system, if you will, and which then
100%.
leads you into spaces of wanting that reward in other ways. So let me binge on the information that's available to me.
Yes.
And then the algorithm kicks in, right? Like if I
Yes.
have climate anxiety, then God knows the algorithm is going to support that anxiety in 7 different ways.
100%.
And in that, you're supposed to then find anchors in a job, find anchors in, having a family, having systems. The broader question, of course, is how do we help them?
Yes.
The specific question I have for you at this point is how do we help them understand these contexts at a time when their brains are not ready for it?
So my book delves into this. I call it resilience boosters, right? There are 4 key pillars, and we know all of them.
Okay.
I would make you guess if we were doing a wellness workshop. Since this is a podcast, I'll share the answer.
Thank you.
The first is nutrition, giving them the right fuel. Right? Omega-3 fatty acids, for example, are known to work like mild ADHD medication. Right? Improves focus. The second is sleep. They tend to minimize its importance because the school isn't really, that school timing isn't structured for teenagers. They would work better if they were allowed to sleep in late and get up late, because that's the way their circadian rhythm is. Only during the teenage years. They were fine when they were little, and they'll be fine when they're adults. But by fine, I mean like able to wake up at 6 a.m. like all of us can and sleep by 10 if we need to.
Correct.
But they really can't. It's hard for them to do it. It's not about discipline. It's just the way their brains are. So that's sort of one of the issues. And then the third is moving their bodies. It's crucial during this phase that they move their bodies. And it could be in any way. It could be dance, it could be athletics, it could be sport. Sport is ideal because it teaches you so much more, but so does dance, right? I was speaking to a dancer and she's interviewed in this book. She says she finds it really interesting that parents pull their children out of dance class during the board exams or during any exam for that matter. And she said, I wish they would understand that it's going to help the children during this time. It'll help them with their stress management. It'll calm them down. It'll help them focus. It'll help them center. The fourth is creative pursuits, right? All of us as children had something that we enjoyed creating. All of us did. And somehow we forget it when there are the pressures of academia and then finding a job, etc. But that's when you really need to hold on to it even more. There was a teenager I spoke to about this, about how do you prevent yourself from getting into that digital black hole? She said, Auntie, I have so many interests and I'm so motivated towards my goals that I don't get into it. She said the children who get into it are the children who are susceptible. And by susceptible, she meant either they had, stresses at home, stresses in their world, were more susceptible in general. Because remember that, depression and anxiety has a genetic basis. Some of us are just more susceptible.
That's true.
And then those of us who are like that need more care, need more attention. But so that's so those 4 pillars, right? Creative pursuits, sleep, nutrition, and exercise. If we can build those habits in at a younger age, then they will have the ability to deal with life as they go forward.
I'll be honest, some of these habits or the use of them, I myself have discovered so much later in life. Right?
You had them as a child.
Probably, yes. I had them as a child, but they've come back now as reminders. Get your 8 hours of sleep.
Oh, in terms of sleep, yes.
Maybe
I've
I've not had enough sunlight today.
Yeah, maybe I've not had sunlight. Find that other creative pursuit. Use your hands. And that's how I started crocheting, and I do a lot of that. So I've discovered it now much, much later in years. For that teenager today and for the, individual entering the workforce, again, late teens, early 20s, right? Is this resilience an individual's trait? Right? Is it something that that the onus is only on that individual?
That's like a Western concept, no? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get on with it. And there is an element to that. With everything that I've described, it will be an individual effort at an adult level. At a teenage level, you have to support them to build those skills in. But I think when you think about it a little bit more, the answer is that it's more nuanced. From a neurodevelopmental perspective, from a Indian social cultural perspective, when you look at it, the brain doesn't develop in a vacuum, right? It develops when you have encouragement from your parent. It develops when you have that support from that teacher who keeps you at it, doesn't let go of the first draft, says you can do better. I want a second draft or a third draft. Or tells you that, C's build character, just march on. And then, like we were talking, In the past, certainly, India had the privilege, or Indian childhood had the privilege of having the extended community, grandparents, uncles, aunts, who were there to help you raise your children. And that played a role in their neurodevelopment and therefore in their resilience building. I suspect that's changing very rapidly.
Yeah,
I think Indian modern life in our metros is no different from an American or a European life, in it being a single family raising their kids. But it's important to find that community for them. Find a way for them to have those adult anchors, so that you can outsource some of the work, if nothing else.
Very true, because the individual is also alone, right? The adult individual in an urban setting is also working a certain number of hours a day, is also going through the same uncertainties and challenges.
Yes.
And probably we are all working with systems of resilience which were built for other contexts. But now we have to apply it for problems that are so much bigger than us, where sometimes, honestly, it's so tempting to shut our minds to some of these realities and say, okay, play games for a couple of hours, it's fine, because I need.
And no, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? The short sort of periods of escapism, we can all engage in that, no problem. The problem arises when it becomes your go-to method of coping. When your child decides to be on gaming for hours on end, or binge watch Netflix for hours on end, then it becomes a problem. So I think short term using these various tools to just block everything out helps us cope better. And nothing wrong with that.
And I also want to come back to the other side of that, where Kashyap, we've spoken about the systems, right? Then they are all privately regulated systems at this point in time, and therefore they are for profit. They are businesses for profit, operating in contexts which are social. So one aspect of this conversation, which Subha and I keep coming back to so much, is teen mental health and what happens when they rely on tools for support that should probably have come from people, for whatever reasons, right? Like parents may not be open to the idea of counseling or therapy. And honestly, that space of, being in a bad place is such that it makes you feel alone. Like that's the very foundational characteristic of, not being in a good place, is that you feel that loneliness. And a tool like GPT or any number of conversational AI are just the easiest to reach out to. So from your work, from your experience, what are the steps, or if we had to do a thought experiment around the step 1, 2, 3 of regulating this ecosystem, which is going to continue to want to make money, it's going to want to profit off of people, because that's the ecosystem in which it exists. But at the same time, it's also probably causing an incidence of teen suicides, or making it a bigger reality. For lack of a better way of phrasing it, it's telling the teenager, or it's telling the young person how to take that extreme measure. Where do we start drawing the lines? Like, very realistically, if we had to draw a line in the sand and say this is where it stops, where do we begin?
And I think, Kashyap, I'll just add to that. I mean, as a parent and as a coach and as someone who uses these tools, for information and research, and I've tried it, it's very easy to have a conversation, right? And you get very supportive responses from the tool, right? But as a parent, I mean, like you mentioned, teen suicide or, suicide at early years of college is rampant as is. Right? In our educational system, if you didn't get the marks, all of us feared that exam results season more than the exam season itself.
And right? That's when the teen suicides are the
when
highest.
These stories will start emerging.
Yeah.
So, to me, as if I just keep only my parent hat on, it seems like a very simple guardrail to put. That the minute that conversation, that query says, death, suicide, murder, just say, no, sorry, not me. You go to Google, but you do the hard work, right? It's not me. But we're still not able to enforce that, like she said, because there's a profit-seeking company behind it. And I think this morning Meta said we will introduce some guardrails for such topics, right? You, in the space of ethics, compliance, what are you grappling with? Because I'm sure it's not easy.
So again, there are different pieces of the puzzle. So, but briefly to your question of using let us frame it as AI tools for mental health and dependency on AI tools, which borders on addiction.
Yeah.
And some tool and some signs that can easily be detected.
Correct.
So the US FDA has a category called when software is used as a medical device, and there are levels of medical. Is it a main tool? Is it an augmented tool, etc.? So there are definitely certain regulations in terms of what these apps have to conform to, which lays out some of these things that we're talking about. But during the pandemic, in general, mental health is like very underserved. Help for mental interventions are underserved across the world. So because during the pandemic in the following years, it shot up. The mental health pandemic, or it shot up parallelly. So they actually said, okay, all mental health apps, we are, you don't have to follow those rules right now. We're temporarily relaxing
we're
the
letting
things
them loose,
because they
basically.
made this analysis that in the net, this is going to be beneficial. So now they have brought it back actually, that exception is gone. So first, we don't understand this concept of addiction because of ChatGPT tools, ChatGPT like tools. Is it playing like a supportive assistant? Is it showing sycophancy and encouraging your worst tendencies, etc.? So that these are easy to fill. Like you can customize ChatGPT, for example, to always react in a particular way.
Yeah.
So in the system prompt, you can say, "Don't do this." So just like how we help fill in, say, time controls, etc., on other devices, we should be able to do that. But this is fairly new. Like I said, I mean, this is coming and hitting it as like at such a fast pace. We are taking time to adopt. But at the same time, like when dog bites man, not news. Maybe it is these days, but in general.
Yeah, you're right.
So for there are countless examples of people getting support from AI tools. They don't have anybody. Instead of loneliness, that doesn't make the news. So we should also be cautious of the sensationalism of the media. Definitely a problem. But I see a lot of other problems as well. Like a lot of people have their entire sort of chat history. So you're going to be charged soon for that. If you want to retain all of that, so I continue to answer your queries in a particular way. Pay me $5 a month. So I'm hoping that at some point, like all corporations are profit driven because most of them are coming from the West, and that's the driving ethos out there. So we cannot expect tools that are built out there to sort of think about the Indian context and say, okay, we're going to give it away as part of a digital commons. But in the near term and fairly quickly, we should make these tools as part of our digital commons. Like we waste a lot of money on so many, like let's say, white elephant projects. It's okay to invest in creating these guardrails and taking research, like the kind of 4 things that you mentioned. These should be integrated into the tools. It is doable.
That's an interesting.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. Use the tool to benefit.
Like implement
mental
the
health.
findings from your book as like interventions that parents can do.
Yeah, because these nudges do work, right? We've seen it in so many ways that if someone just nudges you and says, "Hey, did you get your 8 hours of sleep, or did you sleep less all of last week? You look tired." That it works, right?
makes
It
a
reminds
difference,
you
yeah.
that, hey,
Yes.
okay, so yeah, that's why I've been feeling this way. Let me try and fix it.
So one more use case or application of this has been tried in some places, like your texting history, for example. That can be a mind to see, have you suddenly like withdrawn into yourself? You used to. So there are all these. So there is the risk of false positives and true negatives. So somebody, like we already have a lot of stigma associated with mental health. What happens if somebody is like falsely accused? Will that carry with them through their careers, through their formative years, etc.?
Yeah.
So those guardrails in terms of the regulation that I talked about, so they have higher thresholds of performance limits for these limits.
Yeah. I worry that all of this can work beautifully for adult brains. I just think that teen brains and children's brains are just not ready.
Designed for this.
Yeah.
And what is also very important, like the best brains in Silicon Valley, like you said, these stress boosters or resilience boosters give you that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So that is being digitally delivered. They're hacking her
Yes.
minds and attention spans and doing that, but
Yes.
for making you spend time on those apps.
Yeah.
Yes, and therefore they're moving away from those offline activities that are going to be truly supportive in building their resilience.
What have you seen, like as an adult today,
Yes.
if we use ChatGPT a little too much,
Yes.
I can feel my own cognitive level
Decline
decline,
happening.
right?
Yes.
Because that is so easy. Like, give me a
Yes.
summary, give me talking
Yeah.
points, give me this, give me that.
Yeah.
And then the next time I have to actually sit down and think, it feels like such a strain,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the teen brain or the young brain,
Yes.
the impact must be multifold.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
Memory, and also not just cognitive strength,
Mhm.
but also that feeling of, am I in a group, like, or is it all just on me now? And
Hmm.
hence that loneliness, that I have the tools, so I'm supposed to sort it out. No, I can't ask for help.
True. True.
Like, why, if I'm asking for help now, then I'm even weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there was an MIT study that found that over 4 months, when students used AI exclusively for essay writing,
Hmm.
right? They found that those who used AI exclusively for essay writing had reduced linguistic, behavioral, and cognitive skills at
In
the
just
end of
four
it in
months.
just 4 months. The good news is that with young people, it can get reversed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with us too, right? But that's the beauty of the brain. It's a plastic sort of an organ, neuroplasticity, no? But when it comes to the emotional impact, I would worry more
Mm-hmm.
because the labyrinths that stress can make in your brain
Hmm.
can become chronic.
Yeah, they stay there for a long time as
That
well.
that way of thinking can become permanent, or at least that susceptibility to that way of thinking
Yeah.
will always remain. And that is my worry for our teenagers. Once they lose that, once they get diagnosed with that anxiety, get diagnosed with that depression at that age, then that susceptibility is never going to go away. And that can be a moment where they build their resilience, right? And then the susceptibility vanishes. Things can
That's interesting.
change,
Yeah, yeah,
but then they have to make that effort then. And then it really becomes do or die,
yeah.
literally.
Which is actually prompting me to something which, I mean, you may or may not have an answer to, but have we started hiding our children behind labels? Because we are
Such
very
an interesting
easily
question.
saying, okay, but don't know, it's okay. The child has ADHD, or the child is, chronic something, something, right? Because when we were children, we didn't have any labels.
Yes.
And so when you hit a low, you, with your community, with your family, or with a grandma giving you two tight slaps, or a very warm story, you were picked up,
Yes.
right? But today the labels let you stay there from a very young age.
Hmm.
And then every child around you now knows you with that label.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's also an armor.
No, and I completely agree with you. My mother is a psychologist, and I grew up in the States. I studied in the U.S. I did my undergraduate and postgraduate work there. And she even my generation said, "You people throw around these labels so easily. Why do you do that?" She said, "It's not supportive. Okay, you might have gone through a rough patch. You'll get out of it." And she was a trained clinical psychologist. She is a trained clinical psychologist. So I think that there's a very important point that you're making there. The label is only useful in that moment to support the child, but the idea is to help them get out of it and help them build those skills of resilience so that they can live in this environment that we have no control over, but so that they can continue to thrive, right? Because that's what we want for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an Instagram carousel that never gets made, right? Like no one says, okay, here if you have these 5 symptoms which you've had maybe through your entire life, then you have ADHD. But what then you do about it? Like that carousel is not coming into my feed, at least. I don't know if
No, you're right.
it's happening in yours.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
also hearing that the university inflection point, right? Because even in schools, I find that the communities are still, maybe we have the privilege of having a smaller school community. I want to be mindful of that as well. But at the university level, the world has qualified you as an adult,
Yes.
And they've said
Correct.
now you're, whatever good decisions, bad decisions, poor decisions, you're on your own. And I think, Subha, we've had that freedom as
Correct.
well of saying if you don't want to go to classes, then that's on you.
Yeah. Very
Um,
much. I think we're,
Yeah.
We have all had that
alumni of
experience.
the
And we
same
have used
institute.
that.
Don't look at me.
Badly, right? So, and then these are the children who are then still very much children, firstly, and then going out into the world where they don't know what is the job that is on offer for them. They don't know whether the tech job they prepared for, the policy job that they prepared for will exist. And if it does, then at what scale? So maybe in my mind, those 4 or 5 years of university really seems like a high risk
Yeah.
It
time
is
period.
because the brain doesn't stop developing till the age of 24 in men. In women, it's mostly developed by 18,
Okay.
but still not quite. So they really need our support till 21.
Yeah.
I told this to both my teenagers and they groaned. They're like, oh, God.
No, but it's like even my teen daughter, when she left for university, I told her that, we weren't waiting all our lives for you to turn 18 and leave the home. You may see it in the sitcoms and you may see it in the American movies. We want you back home every chance you get.
Yes.
Right? And this door is always open for you. But I realize you have to remind them of it, because that whole Western influence of, oh, now you're 18, now how can you live with your parents? How can you go back home? You have to be on your own and independent, and they're just not ready for it.
No, they're not ready for it, and they're not supposed to be ready for it. And I think the world expects too much from them. And again, in our generation, it was acceptable because there weren't all these other avenues for us to fall flat on our face.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
now,
It wasn't public knowledge.
Yeah.
but now, yes, and that's the other
broadcast.
thing. Yes, that's the other thing. It's all,
Yeah.
nothing is anonymous. Like nobody knows what I did when I was 21, 22. Thank God
Thank
for
God.
it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But now with our children putting everything on
Yeah.
Insta, but I see, my 15-year-old, his Insta is private. He doesn't post. He says
Right.
it's cringe, mama.
Huh. Even my daughters.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
They
which is
consume,
it's very relieving.
but they
Don't
don't
post my
share.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are consumers,
They
but
are
they don't
consumers.
share.
Yes, they are consumers. They are following.
Yeah. I'm the auntie who shares, but they're all the daughter and her friends. They are just watching and consuming, which has its own dangers, of
Yes.
course. But like you said, every failure is public. Those videos of kids opening their college acceptance letters, they give me such anxiety.
I
Like,
know.
why would you want to do that live?
In front of so many people. Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't want it videotaped. Forget live. The moment.
Yeah.
Correct.
But also as parents yourselves, right? And
Yeah.
working on areas around technology which are slightly parallel, and we hope that through conversations like this and many more, they converge somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
What's your individual take on children and social media and the use of tools? Are they, I think we already viscerally know the answer on some level, but I think what I'm asking is how do we stop them from using it? Let me be very frank.
I'm thinking about my 12-year-old daughter at home.
I'm just looking for permission. I'm looking for ways to say that no, which will stand the test of time, I think.
Yeah.
See, I have a 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And so she's one of the last holdouts. We haven't given her a phone.
I really think you're a holdout. I think it's really unique today.
And we're lucky that she doesn't ask for it. So she misses out on some of the group chats and things like that. And it creates some logistics problems because I'm in a lot of her school groups and assignments. And
You're the messenger, basically.
So it creates some inconveniences. But we've been lucky so far, but there is no answer. I'm hoping that the schools are teaching, because this is big. Schools are teaching like restraint of what to do, what not to do, and things like that.
Do you think, like your daughter, what we have here is her fourth book,
Correct.
right? And so she has found time for a lot of creative pursuits. Right? Is that, you think that would have happened even otherwise? And as a corollary, like, does she feel left out?
Mm-hmm. I think that.
I think
big time.
so far we haven't felt it, but I can see that is creeping in. That is creeping in, saying, okay, I'm not able to sort of coordinate the movies which we decide, or some things that they want to decide, right? So we're almost giving in. And there is no specific reason that we're not giving. It's that she already has a computer of her own. She already has an iPad of her own. She has a phone, landline of her own. We probably are the only people who still have a landline that's exclusively for her. But all these digital devices also came in early earlier than normally you would have because of the
The
pandemic online
pandemic, yeah.
classes.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
But
Yes.
definitely, like she writes, I think more than for her creative pursuits, the distraction is schoolwork. There is far too much of it. We are in, I mean, actually a reasonably good school, which focuses on not burdening the students, but still there is like
Still.
far too much
Yeah, but I
stuff going
think in
on.
this AI world now, we have to move. There needs to be a revolution in the way education is conducted. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. To
Correct.
use
We
your
have
favorite
to
phrase.
move from information sort of obsessed education to one
Correct.
that focuses on values, focuses on creativity, focuses on cognitive sort of skills like creative problem solving.
Yeah.
I don't think we can now have this kind of educational system. It's
Yeah,
become obsolete almost
correct.
overnight.
See, I have one small interjection out there, which is that so one of the pet peeves of the way, I mean, our school board, ICSE board is doing is that there's a lot of
Rote
emphasis on
memorization.
memorization.
Yeah.
So now with so much AI, I'm coming
Yeah.
around to the conclusion that memorization is a good thing.
Oh, I see.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because there is so much cognitive offloading, like you talked about,
Yeah.
that MIT study that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is actually probably a good way to
To
sort of,
counteract that.
yeah, I mean, exercise your mental muscles.
That's very interesting.
So-
Yeah.
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 So
That's
I'm much
very
peaceful
interesting.
now when she is like studying for exams, trying to remember Julius Caesar.
That's a really important point, I think. And when you look at how the Indian education system prepares you when you study in the West, you have that edge
Yeah. Yeah.
because you
It's been
know
spoken
how
about, yeah.
to do the stuff that you have to do by just gritting your teeth.
Hmm.
You already know how to do that because you had to do it through your schooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thinking part, the creative problem solving part, all that
Yeah.
can potentially come later. I agree with you. It worked
Yeah.
for me as individually.
And actually, in all of this, I think schools are doing a reasonable job. They are mixing what they have to do because of the board and the way our exams are, and allowing for a lot of public speaking, debate events, even in class discussions or writing reports, which where you have to have understood the topic, right, or doing a project. I think schools, but still, they're still constrained by so many things, constrained by how a board functions, and then constrained by the fact that these children have access to so many tools that if I tell them to write an essay, is it really theirs?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because they're going to use a tool to write that essay. So is it
Yeah.
even worth that effort?
I think it goes back to the point you were making earlier, that where we educate our children on the perils of using AI and perhaps make education far more engaging. The onus becomes lies on the teacher, right? Like all our best teachers inspired us
Yeah. Yeah.
to to seek more, to delve deeper, and make that connection with our children. It really calls for this is the problem. Technology is moving too fast for our brains.
Yeah.
Our brains have to struggle to keep up,
Yeah.
and we don't have, therefore,
Correct.
the framework in place to handle that technology. It comes and it sits in front of us, and it's wonderful. It has its uses. I'm not even going to
Yeah.
pretend it doesn't. It's going to save lives, I'm sure, and it's going to save loneliness in many people, and perhaps help the mental health of many. But the negative impact of it needs to be considered at every level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. I think it comes to if we can keep focusing on what is a better way to use this monster that we've created, right? Like
Yeah.
when I look at my daughter studying, and I wonder, even now she's got a chemistry textbook that looks just as boring as mine did,
Yep.
right? And I feel like we actually did a little bit more of lab work and dissection, all of that. In the interest of saving the animal, some of that has gone away, right? Even the cockroach can't be dissected anymore. But can't we build tools which take them into that world, immerse them into that world of being in a lab and doing those experiments? But we're not using technology for that. We're still kind of the most that chemistry that she can do outside of a textbook is a YouTube video.
True.
But there could be ways to really immerse herself in that world. But I think we need to keep focusing on pushing technology to better use cases.
I agree with you. Make technology sort of purposeful in that direction.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure many, I don't know, medical, I'm not sure how teaching happens today. Is it any different? Because there's so much
medicine,
that.
actually, medical teaching is one of the last areas
Hmm.
to adopt AI. In general, I agree with your assessment, going back to your earlier point, that schools are doing a decent job. At least the top schools are doing a decent job. But because when we send our kids to school, we're not expecting them to pick up skills, but all the things that you talked about, creativity, exploration, that's the expectation of schools. But when you go to university, when you're college, we're expecting that they'll pick up more industry ready or job ready skills.
Yeah.
That is where we are failing a lot of our youth. And they're like teenagers to young adults at that point in time, so that transition is not complete. So there are a lot of experiments. So ironically, all the Silicon Valley bigwigs, they don't give
They don't give correct.
phones
That's
and
such an
gadgets
important point
Right.
to their
kids.
own. That's such an important point.
Something we can take, we can follow
Yeah.
their lead.
Yeah.
I told my
So that is
children
a read for you.
I told my children Steve Jobs didn't give his kids iPads.
Yeah.
Of course, they roll their eyes, but
Because even when we say it, we're not, I don't
Fully
know,
convinced,
we're not
right?
fully
Like, how could they?
convinced. How did he manage that? You're right. You're right. Because I think this, and it comes to maybe the whole workforce generation again, that what are you hearing or what are you seeing as the impact of this lot moving into the workforce? Because again, they are managed by folks like you and me, whose mindset and childhood has been very different.
Yeah.
And so that daily struggle is very real, where all the middle managers that I work with are saying, how nice do I have to be to this new employee, right? I can't give negative feedback, I can't shout, I can't say a bad thing, I can't ask for 1 hour more of their time. There's pushback for everything.
And the employees also then saying, but I have the world to save, right? Like, let me do my 9 to
Yeah.
5, because 5:30 onwards, I have to go fight climate change. I have to go be part of local advocacy groups, right? So there's a lot of dissonance I'm finding, even like in conversations with our own children
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
There is that worldview. And now these are the employer-employee relationships in some way. There's so much conflict around that. So many reels going viral of, both sides blaming each other
Correct.
without really kind of understanding the other's perspective, which again is something that we lost along the way. Okay, given that some of us are older, how do we do a better job to begin with in managing these kind of priorities?
See, I think we have a tendency to say if we made certain mistakes, we don't want the younger generation to make the same mistakes.
Correct.
So I sort of think that we hover around and try to impart all those lessons.
Yeah.
But it's probably okay to let them make their own mistakes
Yeah.
and learn. That I think,
Yeah.
as I keep growing older, I have to
Right.
remind myself.
Yeah,
You're
I know
right.
as a parent it's very hard, but
Very
we've
hard.
got to tell ourselves that
Correct.
we have to allow our children to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So
And
I
it's
agree
so-
with you.
It's so interesting because just a few days ago, we were given this piece of information that a lot of Gen Z employees asked their mums to speak to the manager.
Correct.
What?
Yeah, it was quite.
There was an article that we read that they're saying you intervene on my behalf because you've always done it.
That's
you know,
that's an
it's so
insight,
scary.
isn't it? But it tells you something.
Yeah.
That's helicopter parenting
Taken to the extreme.
Correct.
taken to the extreme, but the child only is saying, continue to helicopter parent me.
Yeah, it's an easy out, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the hard work, or you don't have to try and fail. But that's the generation we're creating.
So
Yeah.
there are two aspects out here. One is like
Scary.
there is the relationship between labor and capital. So if it's a sort of a tight job market, so employees become economic agents.
Yeah.
You can't bring your full selves to the work. But when the employees have the upper hand, it's like, okay, people will sort of allow them to and encourage them to bring their full selves. We've seen that pendulum shift in the last 5-6 years. So that's a fascinating economic set play.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the older generation, so to speak, I mean, I'm including myself. I'm not including me.
Unfortunately, yes, we are the older generation.
So I think we have some work to do in terms of appreciating the concerns of the younger generation.
Yeah, I think we've got to come with a lot of compassion, patience, and empathy. They deserve it. Really think about how we grew up, yeah?
Yeah.
It was a much simpler world. It
I
was a
think-
safer world,
Yeah.
Safer.
easier world. Even the time that we started looking for jobs.
Actually, there
many
was a
more.
limited universe you looked at, no?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which itself made it so simple. I know that I'm only qualified for these 4 or 5, whatever.
Correct.
Like,
So
I'm
I'm going to
not
do this and
also
Yeah,
trying to, I don't know, be a game developer and a farmer at the same time.
And
Yeah.
Like,
that
it's
FOMO was not there
impossible.
as much.
it
Yeah.
wasn't
So now
there.
we
yeah,
have
we
FOMO.
didn't know what else was possible.
Yeah.
And our parents told us engineer or doctor.
Yeah.
We chose one or
Correct.
the
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah.
And we made our peace with it.
Yeah.
Correct,
The
correct.
paradox of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an age of abundance, and we've created it. And I think, like you said, it's a very positive intent that my child should have a better life.
Yeah.
For
Right?
sure.
It
Yeah.
all comes from positive intent, but I think we also have to save them from the monsters we've
Hmm.
created. Right, the
Beautifully
tools
put.
and the technology.
Yeah.
It's on us to kind of repair some of
Hmm.
the childhood that they're going through. I don't know how successful we'll be, but I think maybe we'll, as a kind of wrap, what is your best case, worst case scenario that you see panning out over the next few years?
I always see the glass as half full, right? I'm an optimist. Um, so I have great hope for this generation. I think they are extraordinary in their understanding of the world perhaps because they've been given all that information so soon. But considering that, they're quite balanced. They're also not prone to making insensible choices, right? They're drinking less.
Yeah, yeah,
They're being less promiscuous.
yeah.
They're interested in making a difference, right? We weren't activists because we didn't know any better. They know better and they're choosing activism. Not easy, but they're choosing it.
Yeah.
They want to see the world being a better place. We didn't care about the world so much.
Correct.
We didn't know about it as our defense. But even if we had known about it, I don't know. But they care. As a community, they
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
And we can support them in that, right? We can, because it's going to be their world for longer than it's going to be ours. So it's really up to us to do more.
I think I like that take. I think some of it I didn't see it that way, and it's making a lot of sense.
And it's very reassuring, honestly. Calms you a little bit to say that, Yeah.
So what I think is, so we need to relook at careers. This is the scary part. I'm starting with the bad news part first. So we're already seeing the impact at the beginning of the career. So in the worst case scenario, like we'll go back to 15th century, where like apprenticeship, like Leonardo da Vinci, his family had to pay somebody to take him as an apprentice and teach him all the tools of the trade, tricks of the trade, gain apprentice. So we may soon, like instead of companies paying you to join them and train you, etc., you may have to pay for that. So that's the worst case scenario. Similarly, at the other end of the extreme, so careers, as you grow older, you can't keep learning. That neuroplasticity of the brain, I think,
There's only so
reduces if not
much.
stops.
100%. Reduces, but it never stops.
Correct. So we need, the onus is on us. So if we are not careful, the careers which are from 20 to 60 or 65, they now probably will become 25 to 45. So we need to watch out for that, particularly people in the knowledge intensive industries. So that's the worst case scenario. And the onus, I mean, obviously, it is the job of the companies, the governments, societies, we think, but the onus is largely going to fall on the individuals and the family units. So that's the worst case scenario.
So, and in the worst case scenario, we're saying people need to know how to use their leisure time better. Then
need to figure, like, if it's forced leisure time, I'm worried that it is forced leisure time. So need to prepare.
So then creative, again, this whole
Yeah,
piece about creative pursuits and, being, moving your bodies becomes even more important.
You talked about identity formation for teens.
Yes.
But for adults also, a lot of the identity I see is like tied to their
Shifting all
work.
the
tied
time.
to work.
Yeah.
It's very
like
tied
at
to work.
45, you're not like as much in demand, not as much of a hot property as you were before. So
Right.
what do you do? So
Yeah,
that's.
Yeah.
But the positive, I mean, the positive part is education. See, in one way or the other, we spend about 20 years of our life in some kind of education institutions. So now we always talk about AI enabling personalization. So there is also different learning needs, different learning materials, different styles. So we can actually implement all of that stuff if we get our, the whole village has to come together for this. But if we do that, we can personalize education at scale and tailor them to each individual learner and student. So that's possible.
Yeah, this leisure times thing reminded me of a story that was in the New York Times more than a few years ago, and it was titled "The Man Who Forgot to Die." So he was this gentleman who was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Okay. And he decided, I have 6 months to live. I'm just going to go back to Greece, to my little village. I'm going to do a little bit of farming, and I'm going to hang out with my whoever's still there, and I'm going to, have a little kitchen garden, and I'm going to drink my wine and live out my days the way that I would like. And he continued living.
Wow.
So
Those are the resilience boosters.
those were the resilience
Yeah,
boosters.
yeah.
He was moving his body, he was using his hands for creative pursuits. He was chatting with old friends in his native language.
Yeah.
He forgot to die.
Yeah, and that whole intergenerational aspect as well. I was just
Yes.
thinking earlier that the closing of the ranks doesn't have to be a bad thing. We can also close around each other. We can also close around our children, and we can also, begin. I know for a fact that your daughter has my number because
Correct.
there is that line of, if there's an emergency and the parent is not who I want to, then does the child know that there is,
Somebody
someone else?
Yeah.
Now, the hope is that that call never comes, right? But at least you know that you've built that.
Yes.
You've held them in that sense.
Yes.
And again, I'm thinking so much about the community engagement aspects, right? Like you're farming as a community, you're singing as a community. And I think in India, we have the benefit of festivals, right? There's so much that you can sort of do
Correct.
in the
That's so
context
true.
of, yeah.
It's been such a lovely conversation. Thank you
Yes,
both. I
really.
think I'm loving how these worlds do collide and merge, and there's a lot of positive takeaways from it. We have a segment called Read, Watch, Listen, where we ask our guests to, recommend
Yes.
something that they read. But I'd like you to take us through your book, if
Okay.
you'd like. You've recently launched
Yes.
your second book.
Yes.
So if you'd like to.
100%. Yes, it's
So
called.
this is the book.
Yes, thank you. It's called Resilience Decoded: What Every Parent Should Know About Teen Mental Health. And it really came into my mind as something that needed to be written about during the pandemic. Yeah, the perfect storm of children being in social isolation for 2 years, combined with the academic pressures and the advent of social media. They had access to social media. The digital age was upon them, and there was nothing to do except access that, right? And that sort of was the impetus for the book. And the book is then a roadmap that blends the neuroscience, because once we know, we're in a better position to help our children, and with practical, culturally aware strategies that parents can implement. Because it's one thing to know, but then you want to know what to do about it. And unlike my previous book, 99 Not Out, Your Guide to a Long and Healthy Life, which is fairly research heavy, right? It's intensely sort of based on lots and lots of studies. This is lighter. Because as a parent, I also know I don't want to know about the studies.
Tell me
a
what
point.
should I do?
Yes, I just need to know what to
Yes,
do.
yes. And in our context.
Yes, in our context, in the Indian context. So the book is then written by speaking to teenagers, their parents, psychologists, psychiatrists, educators, and then looking at the current research to really come up with what would be of use to parents like me, because I'm the mother of two teenage boys. And I saw my sons struggling during the pandemic, particularly the older one who came of age as in he became a teenager right during the pandemic. So 2 years of online school was really hard. And one of the ways that he was able to survive it is because he's a professional athlete. He's a cricketer. So he spent a lot of time outdoors. And he spent time engaging with his friends and his community of cricket. Going back to the book, though, there are really two key takeaways, right? The first one is about the neurobiology. The fact that 80% of their brain is fully formed, but 20% is still under development. That 20% is responsible for executive function and for impulse control. So when they're being that irrational, moody teenager, I want you to recognize that they have this extraordinary potential. And just wait for it. Be patient. Keep giving them the lessons often. They're not going to hear it the first time. You're going to have to repeat it. Surprise, surprise. And that resilience is a learnable skill. It's not something you're born with. It's something you can develop. Develop over your lifetime. Yeah. And let them start early, because the world they live in
Yeah.
is far more filled with potholes than the world that we grew up in,
Yes.
thanks to the digital world. Yeah. So the soundbite then for me is that we can't really change the world that our teenagers are growing up in, but we can arm them with the tools so that they can thrive.
Yeah. And honestly, thank you for a very positive perspective as a
Correct.
whole. I'm sure as a topic, as you were writing it, as you were going through the research, it might not have been the easiest to kind of consume or digest, and the statistics, and that's what we look at, right? The sensationalized news as
Yeah.
well. But what you brought in today was a very nuanced, very balanced, like you said, a glass half full perspective, which has honestly left us feeling a little relieved to say,
Hopeful,
yeah,
very hopeful.
this is still something we can do.
100%.
It's not something we have to,
Correct.
sign off all agency on and hope for the best somehow, which I think is the natural default for a lot of us when faced with things that we can't handle. But you've given us a lot of hope, and thank you for that. Yeah.
Most welcome. That was the idea. I'm glad it came through.
Thank you. And Kashyap, normally I would have given you a choice, but I'm going to ask you to tell us about Kavya and her book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how lovely.
Oh, nice. So I'm also a children's books publisher. So I published 4 of my daughter's books, and which have done reasonably well.
Fantastic.
So she's the first 3 books are about I have it here, about a fictional world, children's fantasy books called Fangalore. She was very interested in pets at the time. This she wrote during the pandemic time. She was 9 at that time, and this is a school it's a boarding school that lets pets.
Okay.
So that has a fascination. So it did really well. But then after some time, she took a break. Like school happened. But then this recent summer, she sat for a month and wrote this detective fiction book.
Okay.
And we are very thrilled with how it has done.
Nice.
It's the number one sort of comment that comes is like it's unputterdownable.
Oh,
It's like a
wow.
great mystery. So I hope all
How wonderful.
you check it out.
Congratulations.
Yes,
I can't wait to read it.
And our daughters are going to check it out.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Yes, I definitely listen to this. But coming back to this thing, I learned a lot from this feedback. I mean, from this session, from this podcast. So I remember reading your columns in Mint, and
correct.
I'm sure like there are so many more themes that we don't have the time for. So I hope you bring it back and write about some of the things that we talked about there.
Yeah, that'll be so lovely.
That'll be very useful, actually.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because the world is really moving fast. So
And we need perspectives
We
like
do,
yours
we
and
do.
insights. I'm so glad to be able to
hopeful
hear them.
perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balanced perspectives.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I
Thank
like
you.
part of culturally relevant, culturally aligned things. That I think is a big gap in the market that we have.
Correct,
So
correct.
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. Because you've got Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. You've got,
Correct.
books on neurobiology, but you don't have anything that speaks to Indian parents.
Yeah.
And our context is very different.
It is.
It's very
Our
different.
cultural world is so different.
Yes.
So I also want to sorry to I didn't
No
realize it.
problem.
So
No problem.
I also want to like a lot of questions that I get is like what should we do to keep on top of AI?
In what way?
Like there is so much seems to be happening.
Huh.
So what are some resources, some books, etc.
Yeah.
So I want to recommend like a few resources.
Sure, sure.
One is like there are 2 Wharton professors. One we know.
Okay.
So Professor H. Karthik, we call him HK. So he has a fantastic podcast, which is about AI and creativity. You're talking about like creative pursuits. So that's a fantastic podcast to check out.
Yeah.
There is another Wharton professor called Ethan Mollick.
Okay.
So the kind of things like that, there is so much seems to be happening, and you'll drown in information if you're not careful. So follow these 2 folks and other listeners of this podcast.
Yeah.
That should be good resources.
Please send us an email afterwards.
No, I think you're right. Professor Karthik Osnagar's
Yeah.
work and his new podcast, I think, very, very useful in these times because there is a sense of overwhelm. And, what do I really look at, read, pursue, and how do I take it forward? So, thank you for that reminder. Thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on Small Talk.
Most welcome. Thank you for having us.
I like thank you for having us in small talk, but a big impact. Congrats to you both.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.